On tonight's episode of Mr. Norris's In Case You Missed It, we look at the Articles of Confederation, America's first government, and how they were, as the kids say, an epic fail. Hey, hello, hi, and what is up? It's your favorite history teacher, Mr. Norris, with the good hair. And today we're going to be talking about America's first government, the Articles of Confederation. They get established March 1st, 1781, and last until September 13th, 1788. They do have a few accomplishments, but for the most part, they're really not an effective form of government, which leads our country down the road to establishing the Constitution. All right, we'll start with the good first, because that's pretty short, to be honest with you. What are the good things that the Articles of Confederation did? Well, it was established and really started kind of functioning and being a functioning governing body during the end of the Revolutionary War. So did it help us get through the war? Yes, absolutely. So I guess you can, chalk that up as an accomplishment. The Articles of Confederation were set up on purpose to be a weak central government. And it just makes sense. Okay, the people at the time in the early United States were very weary and very scared of a strong central government. They had literally just overthrown, or were in the process of overthrowing, a really strong central government from Great Britain that was treating them unfairly, or that they perceived was unfairly, with taxes and certain laws that were being passed. They didn't want a repeat of that over here. So they purposely made the national government, or the central government, weak, and gave all of the power to the states. Some of their accomplishments include the Land Ordinance of 1785. And basically after the war, we gained all this massive new territory from the Atlantic coast all the way up until the Mississippi River. Now, you need some kind of system of organization to settle that land. If you have people just running out there and planting flags and being like, you can't live here, this is mine, and then they fight and murder each other, that's usually not good. So what the Land Ordinance of 1785 did is it established a way for land surveyors to go out into these new territories, mostly like in the Ohio River Valley, set up little grids of towns, and then land speculators could buy up this land and start selling grids or pieces of the grid to people moving out there. So it's nice and organized. Nobody's throwing fisticuffs over land, kind of, for the most part. There are fights with natives, though. We'll get to that later down the line. Another one of their accomplishments is the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. So the Land Ordinance set up towns and districts out there in this new territory. The Northwest Ordinance was a system for once a lot of people settle into these territories in order to get them to become a state. So it set up something, if 5,000 people moved out there, you could set up some kind of legislator. If 60,000 people were eventually in the territory, you would be appointed a governor, and then you could actually apply to become a state. So those are some of the small accomplishments. That's just about it. All right. Now, how did the Articles of Confederation function? Well, literally, the Articles of Confederation was just a document, 13 articles that literally listed what the central government can do or could do. And basically, that list is just not very long, or not very much. They could do things like declare war, we'll get more into that. They could set up a postal system. They could basically ask the states for things, but again, all of the power lies inside of the states. The Continental Congress that operated during the Revolutionary War was going to become the Confederation Congress, underneath the Articles of Confederation. Each state could send 2 to 7 delegates to the Congress, and each state had one vote on matters. Each state's representation counted equally. So that winds up becoming kind of a big problem too with the Articles of Confederation, because you have states like Rhode Island that are teeny tiny and don't have a huge population, and literally they have as much voting power and as much voting sway as a really large state like Virginia that had a huge population for back then. And people began talking about how that's just not quite fair. We can have a longer list of what the Articles of Confederation could not do. And I'm not going to get into every single little thing that it could not do. But the biggest thing that it could not do, and really its major downfall, is that the Articles of Confederation could not collect taxes. And again, when you think of the times, this makes sense. The colonists, now Americans' biggest problem with British rule was unfair taxes. So when they established this new central government, they did not want a strong federal government or strong central government raking in all these taxes from the states. States could collect their own taxes, but the central government could not. As much as we don't want to pay taxes, If your government doesn't have money, it can't function, it can't operate. And there were a lot of things that it was unable to do, like pay off war debts, pay back foreign countries that aided us during the Revolutionary War, couldn't pay back a lot of Revolutionary War soldiers, and that leads to problems. So the fact that the Articles of Confederation could not collect taxes was a big deal. Other than that, functionality-wise, why did it just not work? If you actually ever read the Articles of Confederation, it's like super, super confusing. All right, it's like trying to read Catcher in the Rye and gain meaning out of it. I don't know. I read it in high school. Didn't make much sense to me. Maybe that's just me. All right. But the articles are kind of confusing. Like in Article 6, it talks about how, states can't declare wars, only the central government can. But then in like Article 9, it says the government can declare war, but only if 9 of 13 states approve. So it kind of like contradicts itself at times. And it's just not a very well thought out or written document, in my own honest opinion. Why else did it not work? Well, to pass any kind of major legislation in the Articles of Confederation, like for instance, declaring war or making treaties or determining where and how money was spent, you needed 9 out of 13 states to agree, a 2/3 majority. That is nearly impossible to get in politics. And if today's climate should teach us anything, it should teach us that to get 2/3 majority of politicians in a room to agree on anything, even if it's loving puppies, is pretty hard to do. And so back then, the Articles of Confederation really just couldn't get anything done. You're just not going to hit that mark, especially in these colonies, these early states. They don't have a lot of communication. It's not like people in New York can pick up the phone and ring up representatives from Georgia and talk things out and try to get on each other's turn. No, you're only going to see each other once you get to Philadelphia, when it's time to make decisions, and it's just not going to work out. So the two really, really big downfalls of the Articles of Confederation: government cannot collect taxes, so they don't have money to operate and do things. And that 9 out of 13 majority to get laws enacted or to do major things in government was just too tough to touch. If you wanted to amend the Articles of Confederation, change them, you actually needed all 13 states to agree. That's going to happen. Never going to happen. So that's why this government really was just ineffective and really just needed to go. Now, all these problems that I just outlined led to things that became the eventual downfall of the Articles of Confederation. And of course, the biggest part is not collecting taxes. 1783, you have the Newburgh Conspiracy, where unpaid veterans in New York almost lead a revolution to overthrow the government. All in the 1780s, you have the Barbary pirates from Tripoli, and they are raiding our ships at seas and holding sailors for ransom. And our central government has no money to pay those pirates and get our sailors back. And they're really, really just taking it to us. Another event, Shays' Rebellion, 1786, which I've outlined in another video, also goes into our government not being able to collect a central system of collecting taxes to pay off war debts. So all in all, the Articles of Confederation, while it served its purpose, got us through the war, had a few accomplishments, it is, as the kids say for the most part, straight trash, son. It's just not very good. And eventually, after Shays' Rebellion, we moved towards creating a stronger central government, a stronger national government, and that takes us to the Constitutional Convention. I hope that you learned a lot from this video. Like I said, I'm not going to dive into every little single thing about the Articles of Confederation. While I think it's interesting, a lot of people don't, and I understand that. I hope you enjoyed the video. If while watching you caught anything that I missed, if you want to comment or throw a like, that'd be just fine. You want a Norris bash? That's fine too. If you'd like to, please subscribe to my channel, Mr. Norris's History Class. I hope you love history. History is life. And remember, in the words of George Washington, the surest basis for public happiness is knowledge. So go out there and get some. Have a good night, everybody.